Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. All right. Had a little extra day of rest there. That wasn't good. And so the market continues its sideways correction and beginning to form for us some definitive lines in the sand to be aware of, opposing pivots. So these pivots help us by defining reference points where there's been some it's a little skirmish, if you will, between buyers and sellers that create support and resistance. And so now we've got a pivot high up above where prices are stalled at. And we've got a pivot low down here. That price is stalled on the way down after breaking this low, which isn't marked as a pivot, but we know it's a relatively important reference point that was violated. It's a big red bar. It's a wide range bar. It broke under a couple of bars, but it didn't have three to the left and the right. So, a little change prior to what had been happening where red bars were ignored and not violated and time corrections. And here we'll call this, let's just call it a bullish or tight time correction. Now we've got a wide, whippy kind of time correction, which is, more what you see at a top. Not always, but at tops and bottoms, volatility tends to expand. And so now we're waiting to see what's going to happen. This 4,800 area, this is the spiders, but that 4,800 area has been a sticking point. And so Thursday, we had that economic report that came in worse than anticipated as far as inflation not decreasing as anticipated, but buyers stepped up and pushed it right back up again. So they're still bullish. They're still buying the dip, even at resistance. So that bottoming tail bar becomes somewhat important to hold above on a closing basis. And of course, this pivot low becomes important, especially if the prices should pop up above the highs. So again, this 4,800 is going to be a sticking point. There's a relatively large open interest of puts and calls there. So that could help ignite prices a little bit higher from there. I don't think they'll go too much further. But let's look at this weekly chart. And this is what we call a continuation pattern. Now, is where it attempts to roll back over and it flips right back up again, and it breaks a couple of lows. Now, this type of a continuation pattern has lower odds than one that maybe would have formed down here. Something like this, right, on the daily chart, where you get the deep retracement and it attempts to pull in. There's an unfilled gap. It seems very reasonable for prices to fill that gap on a red bar, and it flips right back up again. But it's at the beginning of a move. Now, is this the end of the move? Well, maybe not the end of the move, but clearly prices extended as they are would make sense for prices to correct. So far, they're correcting sideways, kind of wide and whippy. So we got an alert under Thursday's low. It's somewhat meaningful, from a day trading point of view on a short-term basis. But ultimately, down below this low, if it closes below that, the 50 MA should be a bunt to get down there. And then at 4,600, again, we're looking at the spiders, so 460, but on SPX 4,600, there's a relatively large open interest of put options down there, which will tend to act as some support. And you've got this base here. So those are levels to be aware of. Now, should it get down there this week, well, then you'd have a green bar, a range expansion green bar that prices broke under, and we'd be pretty confident that we've got a short-term high there, since we've got a continuation pattern that would fail at the time. Right now, we're kind of just in the middle of nowhere. waiting to see which way things are going to go. And because there's this indecision here as to, the obviously bullish price action dissipating, and whether, again, time correction and higher, or an eventual break and price correction down to some lower level. We don't know. So we wait. Our internals have worked off some of that bullish sentiment. That's a good thing. Kind of flipped back up at the end of last week. Breadth is neutral. So we're not getting any advantage using the internals here and say, okay, that's an extreme. So this would lead to the upward scenario versus the lower scenario. So nothing to help us there. And we look at other markets and intermarket relationships. And this is the SPX before we go on to that. Well, let's go back here for a second. All right, where's prices? They were lower, they went higher, they retested. Now they're here. They're below Friday's low. Not a big deal. Easily that could flip right back up again. It's in the upper part of the weekly bar. So neutral. SPX is down below the bar. 47.15 is pretty far away. It's near support. If the market should dip down at the open, probably can get a little below that. Just looking, look, generally, anytime you can get below 40, a whole number, say 4,700, and it's lined up with a pivot, it's going to be a great one, but there's no premium there right now. So this is where it's at right now. And, there's some guy speaking at, I think, 11 o'clock. I don't imagine that they're going to be saying anything of significance. Well, no, yeah, 11 o'clock. Fed Walter, and then there's two auctions, 3-month and 6-month at 11:30. It was just something to keep aware of. And anything that can move the market. Not till later in the week that we're going to have more significant information. So there you go. Upside, upside is it's very close, but it's on the other side of 4,800. So and if the market does drop, that premium, which is right at the edge of what could be acceptable, which is, 4,800 is obviously better. There's more premium there. So I think the downside is the way to go, but let's see if it drops in the first, 5 or 15 minutes. All right. Interest rates, they're up a little bit, just sideways as well. So here, the question is, does it take out this pivot and go up, which is going to rattle the market and equities will go down? Or does this come down here and retest this low, which we've been talking about here for about a month or two for it to get down there? So that doesn't help us much. It's just in the middle of nowhere. Maybe, Robert, retest the low, make a W pattern, and yeah, and we'll see. It goes up. So can we get multiple things in alignment at the same time is what we're focused on. So if this goes down, market should go up. And then, of course, what is the dollar doing? And I can see these currencies here are down a little bit, which means the dollar is up a little bit. And you can see, well, it's gapping above that base. So that's a little pressure on equities, and interest rates a little, because they're not breaking out of any significant support or resistance. And this had this distribution. So all of this would have to be dragged down here. So kind of skews everything, doesn't it? But so it's starting to break down. So that's a negative. Since the dollar is going up and interest rates, they'd have to go up more to really get the market to pay attention to it. Transports, relative weakness, when markets inched up a little bit, this did nothing. So that's a negative for the market. If that didn't do anything, we'll see if they can produce any type of movement one way or the other. Qs into the gap fill. So this went up. The interesting thing about the end of the year, talked about this in the advisory letter this weekend, you know, all last year, it was all about, the FANG stocks, tech growth. And at the end of the year, while those went up, money went into the beaten down stuff. And that's why the breadth expanded and everybody was like, oh, this is great for the markets. Now, we really got things moving. Small caps participated and all that. That's all bullish and everything. And so these broke down. And then traders, institutions came back with a vengeance for them last week. When Meta made a new high, but that's approaching its all-time highs. Keep an eye on that, what it'll do up there. And NVIDIA broke out. So, this change, kind of an abrupt change as to, rotation out of tech. And now, let's get back in. So that, that's a positive. But what is it going to do here at resistance? I think it's going to have a little bit of a tough go, at the beginning of the week here. And if prices can consolidate up here, maybe we get another bottoming tail bar. That'd be a much better scenario for, betting that the markets will go some amount higher. And that some amount, while it's not that far away, we can get new all-time highs, in the S&Ps. This could make new all-time highs. Of course, the Dow is up here. It could make new all-time highs again. Look at the sideways consolidation, pretty tight area for prices to hold. It was breaking below here on a closing basis would clearly show a topping pattern and suggest downside. Common sense. There's the futures just chopping around here, going nowhere. S&Ps, same story. We talked about, can we get a head and shoulders? Is this, if we kind of block this out and look at this move up, bull flag type of a pattern. It's got a wide range bar. It's at resistance. Can it break above here? Or does it go back down? So unless we have a definitive movement here, we're basically in limbo. What are we going to, we're just waiting for something definitive to happen. And it isn't happening this morning. Russell grinding down toward that pivot of support. So this is something that we'll want to keep an eye on, even if it breaks this, which would actually be a good thing. It broke below that, making a lower low, and it hits this support and starts to turn up. Because the weekly is one of the concepts from that we teach in a course about understanding price action. The major support is down here, the pivot prior to a higher high. And this was a momentum move, which leaves a void. So as prices come down and they'll make a lower low, a lower high, lower low into support, it's going to be a buy setup on the weekly. And that would be a desirable scenario for longs for these small caps. And if these are going to turn around, well, then broader markets would probably go higher. We just don't know yet. But should this get its way down there, the broader markets start coming down. Now Dow's got a topping pattern. So he's getting this kind of conflicting situation here, which leads to you're not going to throw darts in this scenario market right now. It'll be more of being aware of certain markets or sectors that can outperform or underperform in individual stocks versus, hey, everything's going up together. The monkey could make it. That's not going to be what it is. Right? Futures topping pattern there. Got our support level, got our resistance level. Waiting to see. It's extended. Would make sense for it to come down. Bitcoin coming in a little bit here. Got a little breakout failure. Got a topping tail on the weekly. Alex shared with myself and some others over the weekend this new contract. There's micro futures for Bitcoin. We'll keep an eye on this. Been out for a little while. Maybe volume starts to pick up on that, to have good liquidity, but something to add to our trading arsenal view, especially on a short-term basis. And gold. Waiting, waiting, waiting. You know, maybe this breaks out. I don't know. We're waiting. I got alerts, but this is near all-time highs. And as we compress this, the weekly doesn't look so bad. That big red bar, nasty red bar so far hasn't followed through. So maybe gold is going to be something this year. Silver's doing nothing. Crude oil doing nothing. Got a topping tail there. It's at support. Pretty much no matter where we look, there isn't anything decisive going on here. So what's the good thing about that? Being aware of it. Get your expectations aligned with what's happening right now so you don't become the proverbial frog in the blender. So that's it from me. All yours, Dan.
Yeah, morning. All right, good morning. I got the sound moved over. We have a shortened week here. Hope everyone enjoyed the long weekend. We have a lot of setups here. So I think it's going to be one of these days on our bullish setups. The alarms aren't going to go off if they stay weak. For our short setups, I do have a lot of alarms going off, primarily on short. So we'll go through those in a second. Let's look at a couple of earnings here. Banks on the highlight again. Greg talked about topping patterns. This is totally a topping pattern. You had two little breakout failures there, and we got Climos on the weeklies. So we're seeing patterns like this all over the place. So if we do trade any longs, they're either unique patterns or they're on their own page, or we'll keep a short leash on them. Morgan and Goldman were up pre-market. See this? So now they're selling off a little. 87.50 down here. It's in the middle of no man's land. It looks like an obvious magnet here at the 5,200. Goldman, another topping pattern. Now this one's not down as much. So this one I like 30-minute low for a call spread. And those other ones, maybe PNC, but Morgan, I think, has moved too much to get any premium. There's a couple news in here. They're not all earnings. MBWM, I don't know what that. There's no volume anyway, so forget about it. Genty saying, yeah, these were earnings, but no volume. No volume. Apple lid, $6. No pattern. Sam I am got an upgrade is all, not earnings. There's no pattern, but what jumps out at me is this monthly. Like we're going sideways here for 2 years. So it's now I have a deeper tracement trading range. Look at all the flat MAs. So this is worth watching now, even if I have to watch it for another month or so. I'm going to. PPG. I forget the news. DFS, I think, had a pre-release maybe of numbers, but I don't see any gaps. FAF, I don't remember the news. Maybe a pre-release again. Apple is having some more troubles than China, I think, having the lower prices. So that's a nasty gap, actually. It's gapping under 4 bars. So that's a call spread idea. Now this would be a horrible short under this prior low because top of the range, bottom of the range. But if it were to gap down here and go sideways through the rest of the week, and then the market starts selling off, I could easily see this 175. So that's going to be a drag on the NAS. Baidu, I saw this in the weekend letter, weekend scanning, WRBs. This would have been a beautiful one for a call spread, but there's no juice. Now it's capping down again. No pattern. But in the news again with China, there's always a China risk. Let's see what alerts I have going off here pre-market. Oh, look at bets I just saw going by the ticker. I don't know. Wow, this thing is $500. So that I don't know what the heck happened on this. But look at this gap. Look at that gap and go. That's a bullish 15-minute pre-market. I'm gonna put this on the 15-minute window. Bets. Now, is this a stock or an ETF? It has to be a stock. Yeah, consumer cyclical. Big Brothers Limited. Restaurants? Is this China related? I can't imagine an American stock acting like this. $500 down the floor. AMD, I just saw was up, relative strength. Another AI play, some guy. They got that Davos convention going on. And yeah, one guy said, oh, yeah, you got to include AMD with the Magnificent Seven. He likes them a lot, but nothing to do here. Boeing, there's an article in Barron's in the journal having more problems with China not taking delivery. Now, over here, I said this looked like a magnet to the 200. Now it's getting under it. So where is this going to stop? The honest answer is I have no idea. I can give reference points. You got a gap fill here. You got then, support under this. Then you got another gap fill, 196. I mean, if this like is a measured move starting from here to here, here to here, that'll bring it to 200. So that's still in pain. Well, I mentioned definitely a call spread watch for short. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. All right, let's look at alarms going off. Sequinome, I had an early alarm. The entry, though, is Thursday's high, just because it's so close to Friday's high. Just a vanilla climactic buy setup. Now, momentum is down so hard that you got to be careful on the turn, and that's another reason I said 2 bars, but it's on my list. I got the alarm. SFM, beautiful closing breakout on a Friday. Look at this, red bars ignored. This is consolidation over time. Caught up with the 20. Look at that uptrend weekly, monthly. That's amazingly strong there. Old grocery store Sprouts. Mattel, low alarm went off. Alex, I don't know if you did this into the close Friday, but if so, you're getting paid on a nice little gap down. That's on our short watch list. Well, it's in the letter, actually. So is Iridium. Now, my alarm went off, but I don't see any prints. All right, so I'll be watching Iridium. Looks fantastic. This is a new short also. Snap I gave. It's kind of a big old M top that's gapping down. I gave that as long puts. Tapestry. I gave. I forgot the trade. Was it just a watch? No, I gave it. Okay, yeah, this one was buying puts. All right, so Tapestry buying puts under the low. The alarm went off. L&T alarm went off. Let's say it's a little bit of a strange pattern because it's a buy setup that already triggered on Friday. Look at all these converging MAs. Wowzer. That's a wowzer example. So that's gapping up. That's going to make our entry even harder. The the turmoil in the Middle East and Red Sea continues. AMBA was a long puts, I believe, or short stop. Yeah, AMBA buying puts. So yeah, with the market down, it makes sense that our short alarms are going off. ESRT closing breakout. This one I do not have in my open. Wait, I think we're in this one. Yeah, we're in this one already. So this is a good up alarm. Let me just reset it right now. Yeah, I had an alarm at 10:30. So that's what made that go off. All right. Uh, let's see what else I got on my interest list on the weekend scan. Let's see, XM, Steven. Yeah, yeah, that's a trade I say, it went into the emergency room on the gap down. And now it's coming out of intensive care now. So it's still damaged goods, but sure, I might get a trade out of them. All right, we'll just start right here. These are a couple, Alex, from your list. Below, bottoming pattern, daily, weekly. No great entry right here, but would be a great put spread if there's any juice. NWE I like as a 1, 2, 3. I posted that. MDRX also 1, 2, 3. I guess like NWE better, Alex, the AB test, because it's not as extended. And that's the only reason. But yeah, this is bearish too. All right, NYE alarm. So let me post NYE 5-minute low as a go. All right, what other alarms? All right, ESRT. Oh, shoot, my down alarm just went off. All right, that's all right. My up alarm went off pre-market. Our stops break even. So we'll just let it play out. All right, let's see these other alarms that went off. Let's see. All right, AMBA. So I gave long puts, so we're not going to get filled at the limit that I had suggested in the letter. Oh no, I said midpoint. Oh, but I said not to exceed 205. Okay, so that's not going to get filled. So Greg, things like this that are little gap and goes, I need your help on how aggressive you want to be on entry. Sometimes we say wait for a bounce, gap fill. Sometimes you say
It's
just
not
do it.
that big of a gap. I would just do a 5-minute low with a stop above yesterday's high.
Okay, that's why I asked.
You know the story. You wait for a gap fill and never get it.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because some of them are technicals. Sometimes we say wait for a bounce. All right, I'm going through all alarms. All right, TPR. So here's another one, Greg. Let's go through all these short alerts that went off. So this one, TPR, was also buying puts, but at an 80 cent limit. So that will only get filled on a bounce, so I'll leave it. The next one, alarm went off. Iridium. That looks great. 5-minute low, looks fantastic. If not, I'm just doing it right now. Looks great. Q's relative strength. The other three are flipping down. I'm just gonna say Iridium's a go. Looks great.